Renove slammed his right fist into the side of a goat's face. As soon as he pulled it back, he swung his left leg into the goat's gut, then spun around into a reverse roundhouse that caught the goat again. Humph. Renove knew. He could do less damage than a mosquito bite against those who didn't accept his existence. This was the height of anti-magic defensive power, Endless 9. Renove is fantasy, a fiction, an illusion. The goat swung its log-like fist with a sound like a storm. Renove dodged by a hair. Had he been an instant slower, that massive arm would have crushed his head like glass. Renove! Stop this! Run! I, Renove, cannot help but rise to the challenge when I see a lady in a pinch. A bad habit of mine. Renove grinned and tried to act tough. He had already sacrificed all he had. There was nothing he could do here and now except become a shield to buy time. He had already chosen to abandon his life for this. Renove is fantasy. He couldn't exist. He couldn't possibly exist. Illusions do not exist. They do not exist. Fantasy is all ridiculous, ridiculous. The goats kept coming, trying to feast on Renove. None had any pretensions of making this a one-on-one fight. Nothing mattered except chewing apart fantasy, even just a nibble. As they gnashed those ruthless jaws and fangs, they closed in around Renove. Gah! Renove's foot hit something and he stumbled. At the same instant, several massive arms reached out and lifted him up. But Renove-sama! What are you doing, Chysters? Shoot them! If that do anything, we would have done it already, nya. Everyone, please stand back. I should be able to buy you some time as they savor my flesh. However, I think they'll find that Renove has quite a few little bones in him. An elbow rammed itself into the massive, hideous jaws that were trying to chew Renove's head. Of course, the goat did moan, but that did nothing but deprive just one goat of his right to the first bite of Renove's head. Many jaws opened wide, trying to crush him and throw him down into those heartless stomachs, which would permit him no cheerful illusions to exist. I won't accept fantasy. Won't accept. It's possible to explain everything with mystery. Possible. Fantasy is fake. Everything is mystery. All of the many arms that lifted Renove up were sliced off. The seven sisters used this chance to fly forward and grab Renove, dragging him back. Which of you mentioned mystery? Does Delanner's blade work on them? I see, if our foes are calling it a mystery. Blood-red, long sword in hand, Delanner slowly walked forward. Behind her walked Will, tapping his back with his black blade. If you don't think this is fantasy, then let's have your theories. I cannot wait to hear your explanations. The crowd of goats stepped back. Though they had been so vicious against the illusions, they stepped back when faced with this pair wielding swords of mystery. There have been a great many closed-room murders on this game board. Choose whichever you please, and we will parry all of your attacks. No, we don't have to defend anything. Indeed, the purpose of a mystery is to offer a challenge. There's no need for us to play defense. Do you get it yet? You're the ones in the hot seat now. Blue truth cut the goats apart. The blue truth that dwelt within each and every one of the riddles from Beato's games so far. What about the closed room with the chain? First game, second twilight. What about the closed room of the chapel? Second game, first twilight. What about the trick to killing Nandra? Third game, ninth twilight. There was no end to the blades. The countless riddles Beatrice had left behind became blades, challenges that tore the goats apart. If they wanted to deny fantasy, they would have to make a counter-argument. They would have to deal with every single trick as a mystery. However, while most of the goats called themselves anti-fantasy, they hadn't thought up any answers for the mystery. Though, Every now and then, goats with answers did appear. So someone outside the Ushiromiya family was hiding on the island, and... Nox is first. It is forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early part of the story. There were multiple culprits all working separately, and it just happened to look like a single culprit. Van Dyne's 12th. There must be but one true culprit. You mean everything but that is forbidden? Boring, right? To have a genre like that. Personally, I think mysteries should be more flexible. The 10 Nox commandments and the 20 Van Dyne rules are behind the times. The definition of the mystery genre should change with the era. Tish. And now they get uppity. Perhaps we are behind the times. In that case, let's see if you have any theories that can satisfy us. Come. The whole crowd of goats charged them. In their fangs, each of them carried theories to crush Beato's closed rooms. The bodies of these goats differed from those who had become corpses so easily. They had mystery-style answers to several closed rooms, so it would take several blade hits to give them a fatal wound. However, Beato had left many blades behind. All of them were exceedingly sharp, so the pair of inquisitors didn't think this would be a desperate battle. This is mystery. The goal is to use all your imagination and knowledge to challenge each of the riddles head-on. Doing so is the greatest pleasure of the mystery genre. So they laughed. Both Will and Delaner laughed, with smiles of admiration at the theories the goats had put everything they had into. They countered with blades from all of the closed rooms. The crowd of goats was no longer an encirclement, but a great wave threatening to swallow the pair up, and yet the pair repelled the enemy without giving an inch. They resisted firmly, cutting through the wave of wailing goats. It was like an ice-breaking ship knocking a path through a frozen sea. They entered the closed room through a hidden passage that no one else could use, and, Nox's third, it is forbidden for hidden passages to exist. After the hidden passage was used, it was welded shut and became unusable, so no hidden passages existed at the time of the inspection. Nox's eighth, it is forbidden for the case to resolve clues that are not presented. These are all fake murders, so no one is actually dead, so all closed rooms were constructed by the so-called victims. Delaner hesitated for just an instant. After all, this cliched and simple theory managed to get around both Beato's closed rooms and Nox's commandments. Delaner saw nothingness inside the goat's massive jaws. Van Dyne's 7th. It is forbidden to have a crime without a corpse. The goat's jaws seemed to close around Delanor's head. However, the upper and lower jaws were no longer connected, and so the upper half merely slid off to the side. I guess even the great Nox forgot to forbid fake murders. There are many splendid mysteries besides murder. The goats weren't about to back off and let the pair have a nice long chat about the mystery genre. The next massive figure immediately enveloped them. Will's blade drew a diagonal slash across its chest, but it only cut through its clothes, leaving no wound. The 20 wedges don't work on this one? Delaner also hit it with her longsword, but still, it just cut its clothes without leaving a mark on its body. Could this goat have a theory that doesn't violate Nox or Van Dyne? Nox and Van Dyne are meaningless. All closed rooms can be explained by a single solution. After all, in an attempt to stop the goat from saying any more, Will and Delaner hit it with blades from every closed room, as well as stakes from the 10 Commandments and the 20 Rules, but none of them had any effect. Slowly, the goat clenched its massive fists together and raised them up high. After all, Will! With a roar, Will slammed into the goat with his body. Though its massive bulk bent back slightly, Will was still leaping into a death trap. However, if he hadn't done so, he wouldn't have been able to protect Delaner. The goat grabbed Will. It lifted him up and held him high in the air. It was like a little kid showing off his favorite toy and waving it around. Let's hear your theory. If I'm to hear a great theory before I die, it'll be a fitting end for a rite. Van Dyne and Nox are useless for making theories. The goat's massive hands closed on Will like a vice. All the bones in Will's body were creaking. Let's hear your theory. There is no need for a theory. What? After all, making theories for any of Beatrice's games is a waste of time. What do you mean? This isn't an orthodox mystery, so thinking about it is just a waste of time. I won't accept Beatrice's game as a mystery. There are no answers to the tricks. It's all just an illusion. Thinking is just a waste of time. Will's head was lowered so his face couldn't be seen. However, the arm of the goat holding him was shaking. The embrace of those long-sized arms of superhuman strength was being slowly pushed away by Will's shaking arms. Thinking is just a waste of time. You say that and you call yourself a mystery novel reader? The mystery genre is like chivalry. You fight with the noble rules you've created, with pride in the stance you've taken. Is it worth being a coward if it'll help you win? Does losing make the whole fight meaningless if you fought with everything you had? This isn't about winning and losing, it's about applauding the will to fight, even in the most dire circumstances. The goat's arms were now spread wide, and it looked as though Will was now the one pushing it back. Will's face was covered in shadow and couldn't be seen. People like you, who call themselves mystery readers, even though they never even try to solve mysteries. You're the ones I really can't stand. Will slammed his forehead into the goat's now unprotected head. If you call yourself a mystery reader, be proud to join in on the battle of the wits. If you call yourself a mystery reader, it's about time you realized. Giving up is nothing to brag about. Will hit it with his head over and over again. His forehead had been completely torn apart by the goat's fangs, but he kept on hitting it. Van Dyne and Knox may be behind the times. The mystery genre does progress with time, just like the world around it. However, there's one thing that never changes. That is pride. Vegeta's just gonna keep hitting the goat in the face with his face. What is a knight proud of? Not victory. He's proud of his courage, which lets him stand up to anyone without fear. Will couldn't forgive this kind of coward who could turn tail from a fight and then brag about it. People who call themselves mystery readers but who have no pride are the only people Will just can't stand. The goat, unable to put up with this anymore, threw Will down to the floor. Then he lifted his fists again, determined to crush Will to pieces this time. Come. You probably will beat me to a pulp, but that'll be no victory for you. You'll destroy your own pride with your own hands. Pointless, pointless. This is no mystery, so why make theories? Thinking is just a waste of time. Useless, useless, useless. Die, 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 die. A fist like a cannonball swinging down towards him as the very last thing Will saw before he shut his eyes. In this game, if you stop thinking. In this game, if you give up, that means you lose, right? Battler smashed his fist into the goat's mouth, and smashed teeth bounced off the ceiling. Goku! Battler summon. If you stop thinking, it means you've given up on the story being a mystery, which means, as far as you're concerned, this game is a fantasy. Battler lifted up his arm, realizing that this was a signal. Lucifer and Shyster 00 jumped. If you've stopped thinking, you don't deserve to be an actor on the stage. Stop trying to sound so smart, and go eat some popcorn from the stands or something. The goat lifted his fist again, then swung down at Battler like a hammer. If you've surrendered to fantasy, that just makes you another target, yeah? It's the same as acknowledging that we exist. Begin recognition of hostile elements. Mark all targets vulnerable to magical attacks in our HMDs. Kids who surrender to fantasy get to deal with us. And if you have a theory, we will hear it out. We'll welcome those people with open arms. Out of respect for them, we won't hold anything back. Oh, but it would seem that this is Battler-sama's time to shine. While I'd like to listen to all of your favorite theories, both mystery and fantasy, this isn't your game right now. No matter how much you future fragments try to deny us, this is no time for me to be defeated. A golden glint gathered in Battler's hand. It was so bright that the whole hall was bathed in gold. Golden butterflies flitted about as though the whole room was being swallowed up by the golden land. Battler lifted his golden longsword high. Feel free to challenge Beto's game as a mystery or a fantasy. I welcome it, but I'm not going to let you deny this final game of mine. Feel the shame of your indiscretion of impinging on the honor of those who have passed away. A slice of the golden longsword flooded the hall with a sea of golden light. Then the whole group of goats clamoring about the hall turned into clouds of gold butterflies and scattered. Even so, only about 100 of them had been wiped out. Before long, the massive crowds of goats outside would probably come pouring in. The seal Gertrude and the others are working on will be finished in a bit. Sorry, but I'll have to ask you to hold out here a little longer. Of course, Lord Battler. Otherwise, we wouldn't get to show off. You know, you two could try fighting just a little, but we're just the MCs. Their excessively blunt refusal drew a few strained smiles. However, it had lessened the tension in the room just a little bit. It's fine, you guys are just moral support. Battler-sama, leave this to us. We won't allow the erosion to proceed any further. And not one of us will be left behind. Of course, we are all precious pieces on Lord Battler's game board. The Seven Sisters of Purgatory, the Chichester Sister Chorus, and everyone else nodded forcefully. Yeah, I'm counting on all of you. We'll definitely protect this final game I made for Angie. They're managing to hold their ground down below. The door to the Golden Land continues to open slowly. It will take some time though. That's right. We'd better start buying some time ourselves. The sea of goats that covered the ground below them was jostling about more and more. By now, even the sea surrounding the island had disappeared. The horizon was gone, and Chewed Up Island was now floating up in an eerie emptiness like space. The goats that flooded the edges of Rockinjima seemed to be spilling off of the sides. Looks like that's it for this game board. As long as there's a game master in pieces, the game board can always be laid out again. As long as you have two people together, you can create any sort of game. True. Where on earth is Angie? Where did you hide that? That's right, the chapel. What's happened to the chapel? It's still there. The chapel looked like a white building floating in the pitch-black sea of goats. Yes, this was strange. There was no way those goats who consumed everything would go out of their way to avoid just the chapel. That's where Angie is. Outside the chapel was a sea of goats. Very soon the earth around the chapel would be eaten away, and they would probably end up floating on nothingness. The rampage of goats as they devoured everything and recited the tragedies they had imagined was truly making a lot of noise. However, none of that reached inside the chapel. Angie finally broke the magic seal on the entrance and stepped inside. The seal was supposed to be unbreakable by anyone. However, in the face of Angie Beatrice, Witch of Truth, the one who sought the truth and could sweep aside all forces that prevented her from finding it, no barrier was absolute. There it is. A single book, tightly locked, rested on the altar. It was the hidden diary of the Ushirome Eva that had continued to write in even her years later, the Book of the Single Truth. It was the one Featherine had shown her in the world of 1998. This time, I have the key. I gripped the gold key that sat in my pocket, the key Oni-chan gave me. As I approached the altar, I saw the Book of the Single Truth was wrapped in a strange bending of light. So, this is that seal of the Game Master that Bernkastel talked about. The Book of the Single Truth was sealed in something like a crystal. It was a seal made by the Game Master's authority. This was on a different level than the breakable magic seal on the chapel door. No matter how Angie used her power as a witch of the truth, this couldn't be broken by anyone except the Game Master. However, this time Battler wasn't the only Game Master. Humph. So sorry, Oni-chan. Bernkastel is a game master too. I just need to take this to her and have her break the seal. Angie slowly approached the altar. Will Angie really do as you say? This is my little sister we're talking about, so yeah, probably not. Then what will we do? Looks like we've got nothing to go on but brute force. At that moment, a fierce impact hit the pair of them. Beato was flung away, and Battler was sealed inside a massive crystal that extended up to the heavens.